This is the second small group discussion with J. Krishnamurti at Brockwood Park, 1973.
Should we go on with what we were discussing yesterday? Yes or no?
Yes.
I think we began by talking about authority. And especially about inner authority and the dependence on another for our conduct, behavior, and whether another can teach us about ourselves. I've forgotten it. Yes. We can only learn, perhaps could use a better word than learning, we can only learn about ourselves in the mirror of relationship. And we have built images in our relationship. And those images act as a separative, divisive factor in relationship. We have not only those images, but also we have many other images about oneself, about others, and so on. And whether it is possible at all in life, in relationship, ever to be free of all these images. When Dr. Bohm asked, could you demonstrate it yourself in your life? We said yes, and we went into that. And I think that's more or less where we left off. Now, if we can begin again, is it possible to be free of these images? We are asking that question because images, beliefs, conclusions, the known factors in relationship distort relationship. And in that distortion there is conflict. And where there is conflict, any action born of that conflict must lead to further distortions. So it's important, I think, and we also agreed, that it is necessary to be free of these images, conclusions, conditioning. And is it possible?
be that the brain cells are so deeply grooved by repetition of the image that they are actually damaged and irreparable?
If they're actually damaged, which I really question, then there is nothing more to be said. Can an image damage the brain cells? I can't answer that question because I'm not a specialist on the brain cells. But can any image, which is the product of thought, which has been put together by thought, and thought is the conditional response, can any thought damage the brain? I'm asking, I'm not saying it can or it cannot.
It can certainly be added to and added to and added to by memory, so it's very, very strong.
That's a different matter, but is it damaged in a sense, broken down, not active?
So yesterday, if I understood correctly, you made a distinction between knowledge and image. And it seemed to me that you said that image equals knowledge plus reaction. In other words, knowledge and the person's reaction to that knowledge forms the image, which is then retained almost between the knowledge.
Knowledge plus reaction of that knowledge is the image.
The personal reaction to the knowledge forms an image.
I'm not quite clear this thing.
Is that what you said yesterday?
I'm not. Did I say that?
Well, it was my understanding that may be wrong. My question was, what is the distinction, if there is one, between knowledge and image, as you use the term?
Yeah. Is there a distinction or something? Is knowledge separate from the image? Is that it?
Yes. What is the relation, if any?
Yeah. You have hurt me. I have an image of that hurt, the memory, the knowledge. That knowledge is the image, isn't it? The two are not separate, are they?
Well, if you remember, we were using the example of the bully. And after a certain amount of evidence of a person's bullying, it is a fact that the person is a bully.
That's a fact. Premise. Yes, that's a fact.
So we said, well, if we meet that person, you inevitably have the knowledge of what the person has done. That is in the mind. But is the necessary...
Now, I'm questioning that. I want to question that, if you don't mind.
It's there, surely, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
Well, one doesn't have amnesia about it.
No, I'm not quite sure. The knowledge of that person as a bully is there when you meet that person again.
What do you mean by there?
There, in the sense in the mind, as knowledge, image, which that bully has created in me.
Well, surely it's in the brain cells somewhere.
I'm not. I would like to. Let's go into this a little bit, shall we? May we?
You have to distinguish between a person who did some bullying act and a bully. Because some person did some bullying act and went on doing some bullying act, it doesn't therefore automatically create the image of a bully. There's a distinction between the two.
I only know one bully, let's say. I've lived with that person, and the image of that person is the knowledge. I don't know what bullydom is. I only know the bully. Now, I have gone into this very deeply, and I watched my reactions, all the rest of that, and as the image, the knowledge, of him as a bully remain when I meet him.
May I ask what you mean remain? You mean there is no memory, or that it's not operating, where it's not, it has no influence on you at that moment?
I've even forgotten that he was a bully.
Surely not subconsciously, sir. Do you mean that?
I've even forgotten the nature of his bullying. We'll take a concrete thing, what? Better. We won't mention names. We went to see a certain person, Mrs. Imblett and I. He was a bully. And when I met him, I had no recollection or the image or the memory that he was a bully.
Do you mean at that moment?
At that moment.
At that moment. So it wasn't affecting the moment, but surely
No, obviously.
No, but it was in your mind somewhere.
Obvious that you see that this requires quite a great deal of investigation, because when I talk to you about him, the words convey the content of that image. But that image is not in the mind. Only when I talk about him, it comes up. But otherwise it's non-existent. Consciously or unconsciously. What's that?
I'm sorry, I don't really understand what that means, because where does
I
it
don't
come
quite
from?
understand it myself. We're investigating this.
Yeah. And wouldn't different people react differently to that bully? And so they would have different images, wouldn't they, according to their own...
Yes, but we are talking of the freedom from images, not the variety of images, not the different images that each of us create about a bully, but the content of a relationship with a bully, which is the image. The content is the image, right? Does it remain in the mind, in consciousness, all the time?
I wonder if we couldn't question whether this image of the bully is really a fact. They say that if it were factual knowledge, then that would be one question, but the image of the bully is not a fact.
The image of the bully is not a fact.
He did certain things, that's
Yes.
a fact.
Yes, that's a
the
fact.
image is a kind of explanation of why he did it, which is false.
Yes, sir.
We don't actually know why he did it.
Well, could we take a different example, because the bullying word is so loaded?
Loaded, yeah.
Just a person who has done X, something, that...
You have given me, you have hurt me. Let's keep that. You've hurt me. And the hurt remains. Can that hurt be removed? Be free from that hurt. Even when I meet you. Because if the mind is not free of that hurt, then that hurt acts as a barrier between you and me, and therefore conflict, and all the rest of it.
Therefore, am I correct in understanding that you're saying being hurt means a reaction? One is hurt.
Obviously.
Therefore, there is knowledge and there is reaction in that statement.
No, I have an image about myself, and that image has been hurt by you. My image about myself has been heard. But if I have no image about myself, I am not heard.
Well, now we were looking at an image of somebody else. Now we're discussing something that's done to one's image of oneself.
After all, that is the central factor. I live with somebody, and in that relationship, that somebody has hurt me, the image.
But how can the image be hurt? You say, isn't it an image of a hurt?
No, I think I am a gentle person. I have an image of myself, of whatever it is. And you come and bruise it. What are you bruising?
Well, that's the question.
What are you hurting? Apart from the physical hurt, what is the thing that is being hurt?
Could I approach it from a slightly different angle?
Certainly, sir.
In my particular experience, it would seem that emotional immaturity in the face of the world, that world poses a threat. And it is necessary, therefore, in some way to protect oneself against that threat. That emotional immaturity means that it cannot protect itself. And therefore, one quite mechanically and automatically searches around for something else. If I happen to be a strong man, perhaps I use my physical strength to protect me. If I happen to be intellectually inclined, I perhaps develop a large intellectual brain to protect me. And it seems that this, whether it be physical strength or the large brain I've developed, whenever there is a stimulus, whenever there is an apparent threat to my emotional being, which I'm unable to meet, up comes this
barrier.
And therefore the whole relationship is falsified. And it is this which creates the disorder, because it is something else trying to do the job of something else. In other words, my feelings should meet the situation if it's a feeling stimulus, but that, because of my situation, my immaturity, is impossible.
Are you saying, sir, the immature, intellectually, emotionally, whatever, the immature people have images? And maturity means non-image.
Obviously, one would respond in the right coin.
Yeah. Is that what you're trying to say, sir?
It boils down to this,
Yeah.
yes.
Then that arises, what is maturity, and is it possible to be totally mature?
This is the great difficulty.
No, we were also saying just now, sir, weren't we? What is the image that gets hurt? What do we mean by the image?
Well, the first hurt is an actual physical actuality. Objective.
Which one, sir?
That was the bully starting his history of bullying as a first instance of bullying me. The first reaction is possibly without very much image in it, because it's a direct threat to oneself, and the emotions arising in the body from it are probably direct to the physical sensation, the physical thing seen, the threat. That physical thing seen forms an image in the mind, and that image can recreate the physical state
Yes.
of pain or fear or
Yes.
abhorrence, and that starts to build arguments, internal arguments about why this should happen to me, and so on, and the situation builds up so that one is constantly reproducing in oneself the physical sensation of objection, anger, frustration, and so on. It is this reproduced image of the original sensation built up through a series of internal reasoning and
Yes.
going on that builds the thing up ad nauseam. How to stop that is the...
Yeah. Now, sir, can we begin by trying to find out what is this thing that builds up and what is the thing that is built up? The image. What is the image? I have an image about myself. And what is that image? What is the content of that image? Is it a verbal content?
Verbal and pictorial.
Which one, sir?
Verbal and pictorial.
Yes. Verbal means pictorial and all that.
Largely verbal, though.
Yeah. Verbal. Why does the mind build an image about itself through words, through pictures, through various incidents? Is it to protect itself? Is it because it can't meet completely, wholly another or the challenges of life? Therefore, as it cannot meet adequately a challenge, it builds an image as a means of self-protection. Is that it?
Yes, must be.
Also, if we don't know ourselves, if we don't know what we are, it seems we must try to find out this invention.
What we are may be the image. What we are may be the verbal structure of the image which the mind has created for itself in order to feel secure.
Doesn't it come partly also from expectations of others outside of us?
Expectations of?
Expectations of others outside of us.
Yes, they think we are. Yes, all that.
There's always a conflict in this image. There's for instance, supposing you've always been looked down on, you have that memory, but you will build up a compensating
Yes, sir.
image.
I take shelter in feeling inferior. Or I take shelter in feeling superior. That gives me an image about myself. And that image is my security. In a world that's totally insecure, totally whatever it is, I feel safe.
Well, it doesn't really work completely because we're always
That's of course. So I have built an image about myself in order to protect myself. And what is the image? And is the image different from the image maker? And if the image maker and the image are one, then what is the image? Why all this activity going on all the time.
Why do we feel threatened so much?
Because I have an image. If I have no image, I'm not threatened.
But you just said that we take shelter in an
Wait,
image in order to
wait.
protect
But
what we-
because I take shelter in the mind takes shelter in the image it has made for itself.
But why?
Why? Because I'm threatened.
But you just said that one fears because one has a...
No.
Going around the circle.
Certainly, yes. No, all right, let's begin again. The mind builds an image. What is the nature of that image and the content of that image? And why does the mind build the various images?
I
Why?
feel there's a great fear that if we didn't have an image, we would find nothing.
All right. So fear is the basis of this image, is it?
The fear that
And the mind says, I don't mind if I'll be nothing.
it's not so easy. I feel this is more complicated because if I have an image originally born in me by when I was a child, say, that whenever I'm afraid, people are going to laugh at me or something like this, the image I will project to make me feel secure, is one that I'm extremely courageous.
So I would like to tackle it differently. That is, have you an image about yourself?
You?
Not you. Don't answer me. Have you an image about yourself? Most of us have. And why do you have that image? Let's start factual, follow sir. Why do you have that image? Otherwise we get lost in theories. Are you afraid that if you didn't have the image, you would be destroyed?
Don't we all have what is a little bit of knowledge about other people, ourselves, the world, whatever it is, which forms a little pattern in the mind? And when it's about ourselves, one is inclined to use it as a mirror and try and make it better, make it
what I'm trying to say is, have you got an image about yourself? And if you have, why have you got it? What's the reason?
Comparison.
Huh?
Comparison.
No. Why? You built it through comparison, through imitation, through conformity, through fear.
That makes the builder active, and I would suggest he was passive, that he didn't build the image, and the image was generated.
Who generates the image?
The brain.
The brain is the actor then.
Yes.
The brain is the builder of the images because it can survive only in security.
Yes, I would say this goes right back to atavistic beginnings.
We said that before. So in order to be secure, we build the brain builds these images. These images may be neurotic, may be healthy or unhealthy, destructive, and all that. And whatever the image it is, the brain holds to that. Right?
That's not very clear why I should do so.
They all agreed, sir, that it is for security.
But it doesn't give security. See why?
It thinks it does.
Yeah, but then the trouble is, why does it think falsely?
Because there is no other place where it can find security.
But it's still thinking falsely.
That's all the whole circus. Our life is thinking falsely.
Partly. The brain produces probably half a dozen or more different answers to a specific situation, one of which might be right.
Yes, yes.
But
No,
still,
but sir, why does one's brain have the image? I want to stick to that. What is the reason for this? Is it for self-protection?
yes.
If it is, what is it protecting itself against? You?
The environment.
Against the environment? Against incidents?
Against the truth.
Huh?
Against the truth.
Against what is the fact?
Against the other images.
Huh?
Yes.
It's protecting itself against the other images.
Yes.
Why do we not feel secure just being alive? And why do we feel that our environment...
You see, the security that the brain seeks may be false altogether. And its security in an image may be totally false. And the brain sticks to that.
But you said the brain needs security.
Wait! I'm coming to that. My brain, seeking security, because it can only function in security, effectively, objectively, impersonally, and so on, not finding it seeks in an image. That image is false, but it doesn't know it is false. It's been brought up to think falsely, educated, and all the rest of it. So it is incapable, or no, not incapable. So it is seeking security in false things.
So it's inventing an image of security.
Inventing an image of security.
Once that image is established, it then has a life of its own and goes out seeking food for itself and builds up. And this, of course, then becomes our life.
Yes, obviously. So my brain, thinking wrongly, educated wrongly, the whole cultural environment is to give it security, and not finding it anywhere there. It either goes to church or this or that or the guru, and creates an image for itself in which it feels secure. That image has no reality. So in illusion, it takes security. That's all. It's fairly simple. Now, can the brain see the illusion? I say, yes, that's over. Finished. When it sees an illusion, that is an illusion, it has no attraction anymore.
The brain is still wanting security.
Wait. So it may find security or something totally different. But first, it must be free of the illusory security.
Isn't that the beginning of its security?
Beg pardon?
Isn't that the beginning of its security?
I don't know.
To see that is an illusion?
No, but can the mind, your mind, my mind, or its other mind, see the thing it has created, the image, all that, is illusory security?
Well, it does the brain have to stay with this without knowing what is real security? See, this seems to be the delicate point that
Yes, sir. You see,
that it demands real security, but for a moment it has to go through not knowing, not having any real security, and still giving up the illusion.
no, but if it seeks security, that's what I'm...
Yes.
It must find it in some illusion.
That's right. So the search for security is wrong. Is that what you're saying?
What, sir?
That the search for security is false.
Is false in the sense it wants it.
If the brain wants security, that's already false. Is that it?
No, sir, I would like to put it... No. My brain, this brain, seeks security. And can't find in any of the things it is given as secure. It creates its own image in which it finds security. We more or less see that. And that image, or those conclusions, ideas, all those are illusory. The mind then says that they are illusory, and the moment it sees they are finished, right? They are over. Now what takes place? When the brain has given up that which is illusory, what has taken place?
It goes on seeking
Huh?
security in other avenues.
No, you must see. Any search, any demand for security on its part must be illusory.
Can't know that.
I'm sure. Please, I choose one image, and I discover that the brain discovers that it is illusory. Then it tries another, and that is illusory. So, by seeing one image as illusory, it has discovered that all images are insecurity. It hasn't gone through dozen images and ultimately at the end of your life say, oh, it's all illusory.
Can we say that the search for security through an image is an illusion, so the brain has to stop making images?
That's right. That's all.
But is it still left with the need for security?
What?
Is it still left?
Wait. That is my point. Don't push that point. Has my brain, to me this is practical, I want to be clear. Has my brain stopped seeking security in illusions? Illusions being images, theories, conclusions, formulas, all that. If it has not, then it will create another image, which will equally be illusory. And it cannot find what it wants, which is real, total security, in illusion. So has my brain really put aside all illusions which it has created in its search for security?
And one would have to find out something of what one really wants.
That's what we're doing. That's what's going on now. Here we are sitting together, inquiring into this question. And can this brain really disentangle itself from the things it has created. It's gods, it's all the whole image making.
Can the brain do that? The brain...
I think it can, sir, when it is challenged.
Then it doesn't do it with challenge, does it?
No. Now, what is taking place? I'm asking you. That's a challenge. And you are responding. Either you say, well, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in this, or I'm interested in it, but the brain can't get rid of the images. Then the question is how it gets, you follow? There's interaction going on.
You say that the brain would normally put the truth first, that it's this challenge is really the question of being faced with the truth, and it would put the truth first before the question of security.
But the truth is not an image.
No, I wouldn't even put it that way, sir. Right. I wouldn't even put it that way. You'll forgive me, I'm not being dogmatic or anything. I would only say the brain has lived in illusions which it thought were security. And it says they are not. Is that so? Then if it sees that they are not, then what takes place? And what is it? How does it see that they are illusion?
That is the point I was trying to make, that the brain generates only images, and the knowledge or understanding that its images are illusion is not an image.
No, quite right, sir.
It is not the brain that sees it, it's something else.
What is it that sees? That's what we are coming to. This brain, my mind, has created illusions, and in those illusions it has taken shelter. And you are telling me, look very carefully at your illusions, which you think are real. And I'm asking, what is it, sir, that sees these illusions? Because you tell me that they are illusions, do I accept them as illusions? Which implies you're the authority. We're back to the old thing, and I accept it, and that is no reality. Do I see that they are illusions? And how do I see them? Mind, I, all that. If I use the I mean by that the brain, the mind, all that. How does the mind see that they are illusions? Who is the seer?
Illusion.
Is it? Go on, sir.
You have to begin to see through it.
Who sees through it?
Or some other part of the mind.
No, this is one of the greatest difficulties which few people have solved, because they have said a higher agency enters now. God, the Hindus call it by one name, the Islam people call it by another name, always an outside agency that sees and dispels. If you don't accept outside agency, because that's just another theory invented by some philosopher, if you don't accept that, then what is it that sees?
Intelligence.
Arthur?
Intelligence.
Why do you say intelligence? What do you mean by intelligence?
When you realize, when you... So,
right here, I find that the words that other people have used, and myself also, like understanding, love, all of these things have the possibility of coming out. And they are answers. But if the mind remains, you might say, and refuses to go on in illusion, if it remains with what it is, why is an outside agency necessary?
Because it hasn't been able to answer the question. It hasn't been able to resolve the illusion.
Okay, but if there is a movement to find something beyond what it is, then...
Look, don't let's talk theoretically. The brain, as we've said, has sought security in illusion. The illusion being the images and so on and so on. And when the brain sees that they are illusion, then it'll stop. Now, can the brain see the illusion? Or the very idea that the brain can see the illusion is also an illusion? I don't know if I'm...
Are we caught in the idea that seeing must imply a seer?
That's just the point.
We're conditioned to feel that because of our language, I see that and so on.
Yes. Our language, our whole cultural education is that, the division, the observer and the observed. So I must be the mind or the brain must be very clear when it says, I see the illusion. Is the brain capable of seeing the illusion, or is the brain trying to seek illusion, trying to seek security, inevitably must create illusion? I don't know if I'm...
The movement of the brain itself
That's
is wrong.
Yeah. The movement of the brain trying to find security, that very movement must create the image, the illusion. Are you going? Huh?
Perhaps it's some emotional part of us that can see something different.
After all, the brain is part of the emotion. Identify. It's the whole brain is the whole.
Oh.
Now, let's go into this a little bit. Are you interested in this? No? I want to find out if the brain, in its movement, trying to find security, must always create illusion. Which means only when the brain is completely still, there is security.
It seems to me that as long as I feel or think that there is anything here capable of seeing, I'll go on creating illusions.
So, yes, but look,
Which means I'm not prepared to face emptiness or...
No, I'm not, sir. Do you see that? Does your brain or your mind see that it lives in illusion? The illusion which it feels is its security. my mind has created the guru, right? And the guru is going to help me to be secure. Obviously, enlightenment is my security. Or his experience, which I hope to have also, is my security. Or the knowledge which I have gathered is my security. So, can my mind realize that any movement in its search for security must inevitably create illusion?
Are you also saying that security is an illusion, or only any search for security?
We said searching, the brain seeking security must create illusion.
But is the concept of security...
I don't know. No, I don't want to enter in concept.
No, is security an illusory...
I am the fact is, I am seeking security. Don't come...
But is that the illusion? Is that the basic illusion?
That's what we are saying. The basic reason for illusion is the desire to be secure. I go to the guru, I go to church, I go to the priest, I do all kinds of things in order to be secure. I hold on to my wife, to my parents, to my whatever it is. I cling, I depend.
Is there any other movement of the brain which is not caught in this?
That's what I want to find out. Can my mind stop that movement? Completely. Otherwise I can't enter the other. That is, as we were talking the other day, sir, movement is time. It has sought security in time.
By projecting security in the future, is that...
Future, the past...
By thinking of the future being secure, that's
yeah,
the person's
that's
state.
right, that's right. So movement, the movement of the brain is time. And in time it is seeking security. We are putting it differently. And when the time is not, it's frightened. Death, I'm frightened when the dependence on which I have relied on disappears, and so on, so on. It's a movement in time. And the movement in time is illusion. No? This is too much?
There's the movement in which the brain seeks its own security in time.
Yeah.
But of course, time itself...
Of course, don't let's... Time in... Yes. Isn't it, sir? All movement of the brain is time.
Well, it's not quite so clear. You see, one could say one knows the cells have to be nourished with blood and oxygen and so on.
Yes.
Now, that presumably must continue.
Of course that goes on. Otherwise it's complete security.
Yeah. That's a kind of movement. You see the blood moving through the brain, the cells
Yes.
function. So it seems that you have some special kind of movement in mind.
The movement to create images in which it hopes to find security is time.
Yeah.
No other there are other times, but we're only regarding that. Now, can that movement come to an end? not because it wants to enter into another movement. Then it's a deception, it's a form of double hypocrisy, and so on. So it says, can it stop? But for no other reason than seeing, becoming intelligent, that it cannot live in illusion. Which means intelligence means a non-illusory activity. All right, sir? So is my mind intelligent in that sense? And I'm not. Suppose one is not intelligent in that sense, then what is one to do? I've got my images, and the movement of those images is my security. And any form of threatening those images and the movement in those images is fear. So I build a wall around those images. I resist, I build a wall so that nothing enters. This goes on, this is happening all the time among the traditionalists, among the great believers, among the communists, among the Maoists. You follow? This whole process goes on. The capitalists, the rich people, including Mr. Nixon and Company Limited, they're all involved in this. Did you hear that lovely joke, sir? Pompidou? No, Pompey Gate and Waterloo. Let's go, sorry. Now, can my mind see this fact? And what is the seeing of a fact? I think this is the real crux of it.
We were saying that the brain generated imagery, and that the imagery was active, and impliedly the self or subject is passive.
No. I know. The brain has created the me, which is the greatest image it has, which offers security, subjective, in me. The ego.
The ego is the essence of the image.
Obviously. It is the image.
Why does that give the offer security? And it's,
What, sir?
why does the image of the self offer security?
Why does the self, the me, give the greatest security? Oh, it's very obvious. Why? Why do you think it does? Sir?
Without it, I'm not.
What?
Without that image, then I'm not.
No, sir. Look, you got the me, haven't you? Does that me give you the greatest security? Me being your nationality, your beliefs, your attachments, your opinions, your sorrows, your fears, your anxieties, the future and the past and the present, all that is the me. And that's the greatest image we have.
have a good
If you're all
opinion.
living in that world of illusion, one of the chief illusions is that seeking security, that's one of the chief illusion of all,
Yes,
is
that.
that seeking security will find security.
Yes. So there I am. Now, how is when I say can we put the question, can the brain or the mind see the illusion? What do we mean by seeing? Who is seeing? Another image seeing, another image saying, these are all illusions. And if it says, if that image says these are all illusions, that image itself is an illusion. So we must go into this question of seeing. Can the mind see the whole movement non-fragmentarily, the image making, in which is included the movement of time, protection, security, resistance, all that? Can the brain or the mind see the whole of that movement? Not a fragment of it. If it sees a fragment of it, it is not seeing the rest. It is only seeing the whole of it, is the ending of it. Now can my mind see the whole of this movement? Or it is only capable of seeing in fragments. I don't like that image, I'll get rid of it. I like this image, I'll keep it. Or I'll transform this image into another image. So it's always functioning in fragments. And therefore never seeing the whole, and therefore never really being free from the movement of time as illusion and all that.
But aren't we intrinsically fragments, all of us, without 60 separate brains here?
What's
Aren't
that?
we intrinsically fragments, all 66 brains here?
No. Or we all, you may have separate brain, but we're all creating images. Whether you live in India or in Brockwood or wherever you are.
There is something outside the imagery.
We'll come to that. Don't state it, then we're lost. This is what has been, in India they've gone a great deal into this question. I haven't read their philosophy or their books, but I've talked to a great many of the so-called scholars and all that. This has been one of their central problems. And they say there is something outside the Brahman, the Supreme, and that operates only when the mind is free of illusion or is endeavoring to free itself from illusion. So, illusion is the world. You follow how? So you must renounce the world to find that.
One can see in his daily life that there are moments when he will have an idea or he will tell himself about something, and then he has a seeing and he says, well, I was only pretending to myself. That's not true. Now, that's a fragmentary seeing?
Of course,
is that
of course.
real seeing?
Of course. But please, when we are talking about, can my mind see non-fragmentarily the whole movement of the brain seeking security, this way, that way, the other way? You follow? See the movement, not the object of the movement going to, but the movement itself, the total movement.
This would imply sensitivity of the whole mind.
Oh, obviously, sir. After my whole being, with my whole mind, can that see this illusory way of thinking, acting? The interrelationship of images and so on and so on. The whole tree, not part of the tree.
You made there's movement in which we don't put our attention on the content of the image, but you can sort of see the image forming, or like something behind it.
What's that?
One could see the mind that has no specific image, but there's a sense of a movement which forms images.
I'm sorry, I haven't got it.
Well, it's hard to explain, but rather like instead of seeing a definite image, one can see a movement that
creates the image.
Creating an image, like a cloud forming.
Yes.
On a mountain.
Yes, sir.
We have to ask, what is the substance of the mind?
Substance of the mind is its content.
Those would surely be the fragments built from the substance.
Put it any way you like, sir. We come to the basic thing, which is, can the mind see this fragmentary movement of images?
If you're using your whole mind to see the images, then surely there's no room for the images. If you're using your whole mind, there's no room left for the images to be.
No, be careful what you're saying. That is, are you saying the whole mind is free of images?
It's all image making. The whole mind is making images.
The whole mind is making images?
Yeah, you said that you must use your whole mind to see the images, every part of it. If you do that...
No, not... So I said, can your mind observe, see, or feel whatever, hear the movement of images, the movement that creates the images, not separate images, but the movement, the activity, the energy, the machinery that creates images.
Well, it can see the alternation between imagery and the real objective world.
Of course,
So there is something which exists without images when the world is being seen.
Yes, sir. I can see the trees, I can see the politician and so on. I don't have to have an image about them.
So who is seeing then when there is no image?
Who is seeing them?
So who is seeing the objective world when there is no imagery?
The fact. That's all the facts. There is Mr. Heath, Mr. etc., etc. They are the facts.
So let's be more simple. Just a flower.
Yeah.
One sees a flower. There is no imagery. If there is imagery, the flower goes.
Of course.
So this which contains both images and the flower is greater than either.
No, wait a minute, sir. Are you asking me, can you look at a flower without the image?
No, I'm not asking you that. I'm saying you can.
You can. Wait, I want to be quite sure. I want to be quite sure that I can look at a flower without an image.
by close observation, it is clear that you cannot see a flower if there's an image.
Right, that's clear.
That's quite clear.
Yeah.
Therefore, as everybody sees a flower, there must be fragmented moments in their mind when there's no image.
Maybe, yes. Well, maybe.
Fragmented.
I don't.
Very
I,
tiny.
very, yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't know. But I know myself. Hmm?
Well, yes, reducing it to oneself, so that one knows that there is some ground, something more original than either the imagery or the real flower seen. It's not knowledge as imagery, it's knowledge as actual state.
I look at that flower with knowledge or without knowledge.
Without knowledge.
With an image or without an image. Are you saying, sir, that the seeing without the image is a totally different factor?
A supervening.
Huh?
A supervening factor.
Supervening, that is. Why do you use that word?
I'm trying to use a word which joins the two things under one common ground.
You're suggesting there's one part that sees clearly and one part which makes images. But you've got
No, I'm suggesting there's one part that does both, but it's in a different state when it's doing both.
But it is still the mind that sees.
Yes.
The mind that sees without the image,
yes.
And the same mind sees with the image.
Yes. Yes.
The central factor there is the mind.
Central factor. The essential point there is that there is something which can see without images.
Yes, yes. But can I see without images my relation with another who has hurt me without the image? That is the...
Yes.
And can the mind see the movement that has created this image between you and me and so on? The movement, not you and me.
No, the actual movement within one's psyche.
Yeah. That means, can the mind observe without fragmentation, without fragment? Can the mind, is our mind non-fragmented to look? Is intelligence non-fragmentation? Oh, I can go on. Have you come to an impasse?
When you use the word intelligence, are you speaking of a capability of the mind which is not involved in this image making?
Yes,
or
obviously.
It is
obvious.
Something the mind can do, an action.
Yeah. Which means, can the mind observe without the observer, who is the image maker? Can the mind observe the movement, the total movement, not the image, but the movement itself, without the observer? That means, can the mind be aware only of the movement? Not as the observer and the observed, but only the movement.
It includes the movement which would make images.
What's that?
That means also the movement that is able to make images.
Yes, of course, of course.
Isn't something like looking in different directions?
No, madam, no, it's much more. Look, you see, the whole problem is, put it differently, can the mind observe without any movement in itself? Can I look at you who have hurt me without any movement?
Do you mean thought?
Yeah, thought. Thought, image, the remembrance of hurt, you follow? All that's movement. And we say that movement is time. Going from here there, physically or psychologically, is movement. From this to there, to that. Now, can the mind see its own movement? Huh? You know, this has been one of the factors in meditation. Sorry to go to something else. This is the fact which the Zen Buddhists have tried to do. The word Zen comes from Sanskrit word dhyanam. And as the Chinese couldn't pronounce dhya, they reduced it to Zen. Zen. It became in Japan. Which is to make the mind, through a certain series of shocks and disciplines, completely stop the movement. Right, sir? You know something about it. That's one, they have tried to do that. In India, they have tried to control it. Control the movement of thought and its image and all that. And then they have said the controller is the higher self. And therefore the higher self is still part of thinking, invented by thought, because it has not been able to stop the movement without control. You follow? So they had to invent an outside agency, the higher self, to control the lower self and all the rest of it. And in the West, it is, you will correct me please, in the West, it has been measurement. All thought is measurement. And you cannot exist without measurement. Thought must function always. It can never be quiet. Therefore, identify yourself with Christ, with saints. That is the image. So there it is, the whole picture. Now we are asking something entirely different from all that. We are asking, can the mind see the movement totally? All the effects, the changes, the image making, the interaction between the images, the whole movement of image making. Not the images it has produced, but the movement of images. Movement, the machinery that makes. That means the mind itself is the machinery. Right, sir? Can the mind see that? See that in the sense without the observer being the past, which means again time. You see the complications of it. Therefore, can the mind see its movement?
The mind is really the movement is the mind attempting to establish order of its own. I mean, to identify security and order are the same thing.
Of course.
And that the mind senses its own disorder and is trying to establish order. And if the mind does not move, the question is the mind trying to move to establish order creates disorder.
Disorder, quite.
And now, therefore, the mind has to see all that.
See only disorder, nothing else.
Only what?
Disorder.
Only the disorder.
Nothing else.
Only the fact of disorder.
Disorder. And how you see it matters.
What?
How you see it matters. Whether you see it as an observer seeing disorder, and therefore contradictory, duality, division, conflict, suppression, control, limit, all that, or do you see only disorder? And when you see disorder without the observer, is there disorder? You follow, sir?
The observer is the disorder.
Yeah, that's just it. Can my mind look at disorder, look at this movement which creates disorder, images and all that? Which means can my mind observe the movement, and the observation can only take place when there is total silence. Otherwise, can't see. Can the mind be totally still, without any compulsion, without reward, without the desire to be silent, and so on and so on? Absolutely silent. Not induced silence.
It would seem that things happen in the situation or in the brain, even though you are silent, but you don't become involved. You don't make something or find anything with either image or it's not producing either a need or
a purpose.
A purpose. Something.
There's no motive.
Happen.
Yeah.
But
are you saying, sir? Is this what you're saying? Thought functions only for a purpose and with a motive.
That if that thought, yes.
Huh? Yes. See, the brain, through a motive of security, is trapped in illusion. And without a motive, it is lost. So can the mind be still without any motive? Which means, can the mind function, think, work, do it, without a motive? And therefore supremely efficient. You see, sirs, this has been one of the great problems, as far as I see, among human beings. The desire to live in order, that order brought about by discipline, by moral control and so on. And one observes that has produced much more disorder. I don't know if So the mind says, what is order? Where is order? So there is no order in the world, therefore it rejects the world, you follow? And seeks an order in super world, in super consciousness and all the rest of it. Because it can only function most efficiently, objectively, where there is complete order. You can see that for oneself. So it invents an order, which is the image. Right? Whether it's neurotic or whatever it is. And it gets caught in it, and that becomes another problem, and so on. So seeing all this, very, very, looking at it, without wanting to change it, without wanting to try and go beyond it, just seeing it. The capacity to see it wholly is intelligence, obviously. And that intelligence will function naturally in relationship, where there is no image. Oh, I can go on.
Are you saying then that all, besides the physical, also the creation of, the masters, etc., is an image?
Masters?
Besides the physical, say, the master, non-physical, beings.
There is, ask the experts.
And that's in it? And those are all images?
So, we are now concerned only with one thing. Can we live in relationship without conflict? And that means without images. And that the only thing that can produce peace in the world, when you are not an American, I am not an Indian, Catholic, Protestant, etc., which are all images. And to live in peace is the most practical thing, which is to live without image. The other is total disorder. Look what's happened, for God's sake. So can my mind observe the machinery, and to observe that machinery, the mind must be completely, wholly still. That means non-fragmented.
So we are hoping there's a still point in the turning whirl of our brain.
What's that?
We are looking for the still point in the turning, whirling world of our mind. We're looking at the still point.
No, I understand what you... Who is looking? We come back to that awful question. When you say we look at the still point or the image, who is it that is looking? Unless you answer that, there is no still point. What is the time, sir?
So may I ask a question?
5:05. Oh, yes, sir.
Which goes back right to the beginning, actually. It's the whole business of discussion which worries me for this reason. I understand discussion is not the throwing around of ideas, that we're moving together, exploring together. And I also understand that there must be a central point, in this case you. And we say what we have to say, or our contribution to the discussion is towards you.
No.
Rather, well, it appears this way.
No, sir.
But
there is no me. Because, sir, look, he started, if you forgive me correcting it, he started with saying, asking the whole nature and structure of power, authority.
Yes.
That's not me.
No, but what I mean is, you are saying, now wait, we're coming to that later. Which implies that
what?
You know, you very often say, wait, don't bring...
Because on that particular point Mr. Hammond raised,
yes.
It doesn't mean I'm the center of this universe or this group, for God's sake.
But it seems as though you are leading us to...
Not in the least. The ordinary logic of observing, reasoning has come to this point. Not my reasoning or your reasoning. Reasoning together, we've come to this point.
You're assuming that Krishnamurti comes into this room with his mind made up of a ready-made lecture, and he's leading you all along till he get to his point. He's not. He's doing the same as we are all doing.
Absolutely.
He's trying to feel his... Can't you feel him feeling his way? He doesn't sometimes know the answer. He's saying, stop. Think about this, because he's feeling his way the same as everybody else.
I understand that, but why does the microphone then point to Krishnaji, and why is...
Oh no, come on, sir. Microphone is pointed because they want to keep a record of this.
It could be suspended.
And there, it is there.
There is one.
It is up there too.
This is all part of our image making of...
Absolutely.
This is what disturbs me.
What's that?
We go into a classroom and we teach, and it seems to me sometimes that we are conspiring to make an image in the classroom. That is the conspiracy. 5 or 6 of us are saying we will agree that this image is
no, sir.
a true one.
Now when the speaker is saying no, all images are illusory, Why are you making images?
So my question really, I'm afraid I cannot agree with Mr. Simmons that I assume you're coming in here to give us a lecture. This is not so. But the conflict appears to me to exist. An authority appears to be set up. This is the...
No, sir, I can't accept that because
I'm not saying you are, sir.
Nobody is saying that. On the contrary, we said, look what's happened in India, look what's happened in China, Japan. Looking at all that reasonably, sanely, we say, look, how human beings live in illusion. That's not yours or mine, it is so.
We can't prevent you having an illusion and an image of Krishnaji.
I'm
We can't
sorry.
stop you doing that if you're doing it.
Maybe if you could say this, that if you say something, you may be pointing out something as a fact for anybody to see. It doesn't mean as an authority, but just simply will somebody see this fact?
Yes, of course, sir.
And
So I say, look at this palm. It doesn't make me the authority. I'm saying, don't look.
I originally raised the question yesterday because I had circumstances in which I felt this barrier raised by authority. Perhaps I can now say that through sitting here on a couple of occasions, I have felt no sense of authority whatsoever, and have thereby gained in clarity surrounding the whole question.
We better stop. It's 5 o'clock. We meet next Saturday, don't we? Some of us at least.